All right, let's dive into a really fascinating idea today. We're going to explore a theological perspective that takes a completely different look at something we do every single day, asking for help. We're going to see how, from this point of view, a simple, everyday request can actually cross a major spiritual line. Let's get right into it. So here's the big question, right? When does asking for a simple favor turn into a huge spiritual problem? Asking a friend to help you move a couch, that seems fine. But what happens if you have to ask them 3 times? Or what if you're asking a saint for a miracle? According to this view, the line between what's okay and what's not is incredibly fine, and it all boils down to what you really believe in your heart when you're asking.
Okay, so to get our heads around this, we have to start with one foundational principle, and it's a big one. The idea is that prayer, or supplication, isn't just part of worship, it is worship itself. That idea right there is the key that unlocks this whole concept.
And here it is, straight from the source. Supplication is worship. This one statement just sets the entire stage, because if asking for divine help is the act of worship, then who you ask suddenly becomes the most important spiritual decision you could possibly make. It completely transforms a simple request into the ultimate act of devotion.
Now, the specific term for this is dua, and it's really important to note that this is more than just a casual request. It's a deep, heartfelt appeal for help, for guidance, or for some kind of need, and it's directed towards a being you truly believe has the power to answer.
So, this leads us to the one absolute golden rule that underpins this whole framework. The source is crystal clear on this. Since supplication is worship, it can only ever be directed to God and God alone. Calling on anyone else alongside God is considered the biggest spiritual mistake you can make.
Okay, so you might be thinking, wait a minute, if I can't ask anyone but God for help, does that mean I can't ask my coworker to pass me a pen? And of course not. That's where we get this really critical distinction between what we'll call worldly help versus spiritual supplication.
And this chart lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got your permissible, everyday, worldly help. This is stuff that operates within the normal laws of cause and effect. Asking someone to pass you the water is totally fine, because they're right there and they can physically do it. But on the right, you have prohibited supplication. This is when you're appealing to an unseen power, calling on someone you believe has some kind of independent spiritual authority to work outside of those normal physical laws.
So, who exactly falls into this prohibited category? Well, the source is very specific. We're talking about beings who are held in the absolute highest esteem, saints, prophets, even angels. You can't direct this kind of supplication to them. And the logic here is that they don't have their own independent power to grant requests. All power, ultimately, rests with God alone.
So, this brings us right back to our daily lives. We've established asking for a glass of water is totally fine. But could even that simple act cross the line? From this perspective, the answer is a resounding yes, it absolutely can.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. We're going to dive into that gray area where a totally innocent worldly request can morph into a serious theological problem. And it's all based on your persistence and what you truly believe inside.
The source gives us this brilliant 3-step analogy. So, step 1, you ask a friend for a favor. Totally fine, permissible. Step 2, maybe they forget, so you remind them. Still okay, no problem. But then comes step 3. You ask again, but this time you're insistent. Maybe you start using flattery or even begging. At that exact moment, the source says, the scent of shirk begins to appear. And shirk is the name for that major spiritual error of associating partners with God, of treating another being as if they share his power.
So why? Why is that third request so dangerous? What actually changed? Well, the crucial point is that your belief has shifted. Your insistence, your desperation, it reveals this hidden conviction that this person, not God, holds the ultimate key to solving your problem. You've basically, mentally, promoted them to a position of ultimate authority in your heart.
And this little anecdote from the source just illustrates the ideal perfectly. The story goes that if the prophet's whip fell while he was on his camel, he would actually get down himself to pick it up rather than just ask someone standing right there to hand it to him. It shows this profound commitment to being self-reliant and to minimizing your dependency on anyone other than God.
And this all brings us to the final core concept. The entire structure of what's allowed and what's forbidden when it comes to asking for things, well, it all rests on one single powerful idea about where power really comes from.
So let's be absolutely clear here. According to this viewpoint, the problem isn't the saint, or the angel, or even the friend that you're asking.
They aren't the issue.
The issue is what's happening inside of you. It's about the belief that's taken root in your heart. The problem is the moment you, consciously or subconsciously, assigned independent ultimate power to that being. That is the moment you cross the line. And here it is. This is the fundamental truth at the heart of this entire worldview. From this theological standpoint, all power, all authority, all ability to grant any request ultimately resides with God, and only God. Everyone and everything else is just a means or a channel, but never the source.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, this perspective really challenges us to look past the surface of our own words and actions. It's not just what we ask for, or even who we ask, it's how we ask and why we ask. It kind of forces you to pause and look inward, and it leaves us with this final, lingering question. What is the way you ask for help? Your tone, your persistence, your desperation? What does it truly reveal about where you believe ultimate power really lies?